Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 87th Saturday Morning Story Time Live with your host, Joy Medea. I'm so happy to be here on a snowy morning here at the Creative Cottage here in Eastern Ohio. I picked this book up many months ago, and I've really been looking forward to reading. Of course, tomorrow night, sundown, begins Hanukkah. So I'm going to read this. It's a little on the long side, so I'm going to roll the show opening and then jump right in. And usually I do some commentary and all, but this story really speaks for itself. And so I'm looking forward to reading it for you. So, Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins. I have the 25th anniversary edition. This is by Eric Kimmel, illustrated by Trina Schart Hyman. It's an interesting story how it came into being. The author, Eric Kimmel, says that he wanted to do an experiment, to do something for Hanukkah similar to Dickens' A Christmas Carol. But he wound up basing this story really on a Ukrainian story called Ivanko the Bear Son. And the Hershel of the title, as many of my friends, as I was advertising this yesterday, that I was going to read it, knew Hershel of Ostropol, who is a Jewish folk character, sort of a trickster character, which I personally love that archetype. And he appears in this book. Now, when Eric Kimmel had the idea, publisher after publisher after publisher turned him down. But then there was a magazine looking for a Hanukkah story. He took a chance. He sent it in. I said, well, I don't know. It's not had much success, but I believe in it. They believed in it, put him together with an extraordinary illustrator, and then it was immediately after publication picked up by a publisher, and now a 25th edition. So here we go. Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins. It was the first night of Hanukkah. Hershel of Ostropol was walking down the road. He was tired. He was hungry. Nonetheless, his step was light. Soon he would reach the next village, where bright candles, merry songs, and platters piled high with tasty potato latkes awaited him. But when he arrived, the village was silent and dark. Not a single Hanukkah candle could be seen. Making the journey to the dark, quiet village. What's going on? Isn't tonight the first night of Hanukkah? Hershel asked the villagers. We don't have Hanukkah, Hershel, one of them answered sadly. No Hanukkah? How could this be? Oh, it's because of the goblins. They haunt the old synagogue at the top of the hill. They hate Hanukkah. Whenever we try to light a menorah, the goblins blow out the candles. They break our dreidels. They throw our potato latkes on the floor. Those wicked goblins make our lives miserable all year long. But on Hanukkah, it's really bad. Hershel knew he must help the village people. I'm not afraid of goblins. Tell me how to get rid of them. Oh, it's not easy as you think, a rabbi warned. You must spend 8 nights in the old synagogue. The Hanukkah candles must be lit each night. On the 8th night, the king of the goblins must light them himself. That is the only way to break their power. I'm not afraid, Rabbi, Hershel said. If I can't outwit a few goblins, then my name is not Hershel of Ostropol. The conversation with the villagers, just so beautifully illustrated. The villagers wished Hershel good luck. They had no potato latkes to give him, so they packed him several hard-boiled eggs, along with a big jar of pickles. The rabbi gave Hershel a brass menorah, a package of candles, and a box of matches. Then the villagers said goodbye. Nobody expected to see Hershel ever again. It was long past sundown by the time Hershel climbed to the top of the hill where the old synagogue stood. The crumbling building was gloomy and dark, and rusty hinges squealed as Hershel opened the door. Hershel shuddered. Well, he could believe that goblins lived here. He put 2 candles in the menorah and set it on the windowsill. He struck a match and lit the Shamay candle. He said the blessings and was about to light the other candle when he heard a voice. Hey, what are you doing? Hershel turned around. Here was a goblin no bigger than a horsefly with a long pointy tail and 2 little bat's wings hovering in the air. I'm lighting the Hanukkah candles. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. Oh, no, it's not. We don't allow Hanukkah. Not around here. Oh, is that so? Well, who's going to stop me, a little pipsqueak like you? I may be little, but I'm strong. Really? Can you crush rocks in your hand? The goblin laughed. Crush rocks? You're joking. Nobody's that strong. I am. Watch. Hershel took a hard-boiled egg from his pocket and squeezed it until the yolk and the white ran through his fingers. That's how hard I'm trying to squeeze you if you're going to stop me from lighting these candles. The little goblin's eyes opened wide, since in the dim light the egg looked exactly like a rock. The little goblin shook with fear. You leave me alone! Gladly, if you let me light my candles in peace. All right, one night won't make a difference, but you better not be here tomorrow. Big scary goblins are coming, much bigger than I. If they catch you lighting Hanukkah candles, you'll be sorry. We'll see about that, Hershel said. I think I skipped an illustration here. Yeah, the village and then the synagogue at the top of the hill. And then here he is, using his wits to outsmart the skinny little goblin. On the second night, another goblin appeared. This one was big and fat and waddled like a goose. Hershel was finishing his dinner of pickles and hard-boiled eggs. Have some pickles, he said to the goblin. Pickles? Here, catch. Hershel tossed him a sour pickle. The goblin caught it in his mouth and swallowed it. Pickles are good. Do you like them? I have plenty in this jar. You take all you want. The greedy goblin grabbed as many pickles as his claws could hold, but when he tried to pull his fist out of the jar, he couldn't. I'm stuck. You put a spell on the jar to hold me fast. That's right. And it's a very powerful spell. You came here tonight to stop me from lighting Hanukkah candles, so now I'm going to light them while you stand with your hand in that jar and you watch. How do you like that? No, I hate Hanukkah. There he is. We had the little skinny mini. Now we got the big fatty. And here's Hershel getting it handled, getting it done. The greedy goblin grabbed as many pickles as his claws could hold, but when he tried to pull his fist out of the jar, he couldn't. I'm stuck. You put a spell on the jar to hold me fast. That's right. It's a very powerful spell, and I read that part already. I'm sorry, but it was a good part. It's really his trickster. He's really using humor and to solve the problem. Too bad. You'll have to get used to it. Hershel said the blessings, lit the candles slowly. Then he sang all his favorite Hanukkah songs. The goblin wailed and carried on so much that Hershel finally decided to let him go. Shall I tell you how to break the spell? Yes, I can't stand it anymore. Let go of the pickles. Your greed is the only spell holding you prisoner. The goblin let go of the pickles. His hand slipped out of the jar easily. How that goblin raged. He stood with his hand in a pickle jar while Hershel lit Hanukkah candles under his nose. The furious goblin stamped his foot so hard he shattered into a million pieces. The wind blew them away. And there he is again, just those gorgeous illustrations. Greed is the only spell holding you prisoner. That's, I think, to me, that's the Christmas Carol. The third night came. Hershel felt something watching him as he set the candles in the menorah. Instead of lighting them, he began playing with the dreidel. An hour passed. Hershel looked up. Sitting across the table was another goblin. This one had a fierce red face and two enormous horns. It's getting late. When are you going to light the candles? Later. I have plenty of time. This is more fun, Hershel said as he spun the dreidel. What are you playing with? It looks like a top. It's a dreidel. Don't you know about dreidels? No. Too bad. Dreidels are a lot of fun. You know, you can also make a lot of money if you know how to play. Really? The goblin was interested. All goblins like money. This one was no exception. How do you play? Oh, it's very simple, but you must have gold. That is the first rule. I have plenty. Is this enough? And the goblin poured a pile of gold coins upon the table. Look at this guy. Like something out of Lord of the Rings. Oh, that's fine. Listen carefully now. This letter is shin. If it comes up, you give me a handful of gold. This letter is hey. If it comes up, you give me half your gold. This is gimel. If the dreidel falls on this letter, you give me all your gold. You understand? Wait, there's one letter left. What about this one? Oh, that's none. If a dreidel falls on none, I don't give you anything. You ready? Let's play. You go first. Well, the goblin spun the dreidel. The little top whirled round, and when it fell, the letter on top was shin. Ah, too bad, Hershel said, taking a big handful of the goblin's gold. Try again. Maybe you'll have better luck. The goblin spun the dreidel once more. This time it fell on hay. Ah, this isn't your night, Hershel said, helping himself to half of what was left of the goblin's gold. One more time. Your luck is bound to improve. Once again, the goblin spun. This time the dreidel landed on Gimel. Ah, too bad. Would you like me to spin? And there he is, just watching his gold go away. Hershel had this, yeah. Whoa, this is great stuff. Yes, the goblin grumbled. He was very unhappy about losing his money. Hershel spun the dreidel. This time the letter none was on top. Oh my, I don't have to give you anything, so I get to keep all my gold. Say, that was fun. Get some more gold. We'll play again. What about the Hanukkah candles? I will light them later. There's plenty of time. Not for me. I'm leaving now. I don't like this game. I don't like Hanukkah, and I don't like you. Don't go. I know lots of games. Stay a while. We'll have fun. Goodbye. The goblin spread his wings. He swooped out the door and he flew off into the night. And Hershel lit all of the candles by himself. Really, really see the trickster figure here with what he did with the dreidel. Awesome stuff. So look at these guys. Multiple-eyed, crazy. I'm just going to kind of leave that up there for you. On the following nights, other goblins came. One had 6 heads. One had 3 eyes. All were terrible and fierce. They growled and roared and changed themselves into horrible shapes. They tried to stop Hershel from lighting the Hanukkah candles, but Hershel fooled them all. Finally, the 7th night arrived. 8 tiny candles flickered in the windowsill. Hershel sat back to enjoy their light. Where were the goblins? Had they finally given up? Well, Hershel felt very sleepy. His eyes closed. Suddenly he sat up. He heard a horrible sound, a voice that sounded like the cracking of bones. Happy Hanukkah, Hershel of Ostropol. Who is it? Who's there? Don't you know who I am, Hershel? Weren't you expecting the king of the goblins? The voice rose to a hurricane roar. It ripped the shingles from the synagogue roof and shattered the windows. The Hanukkah candles reeled in the savage blast, but they did not go out. You're too early. You're not supposed to come until tomorrow. The great wind died down. Don't worry, Hershel. I'm far away, but I have power to see you and speak to you. Enjoying this Hanukkah evening, my friend. It will be your last. Tomorrow night, I will come for you. You fooled my slaves, the other goblins. Let's see if you can fool me. Well, poor Hershel, what was he to do? The king of the goblins was on his way, and no power on earth could stop him unless Hershel had an idea. It was a big chance, but he had to take it. It was the only way to save himself and Hanukkah. It's in the doorway. In the last night of Hanukkah, Hershel sat the candles in the menorah. But instead of placing it on the windowsill, he placed the menorah and a box of matches on a small table near the door. Then he sat down to wait. Night fell. It grew dark as pitch inside the gloomy old synagogue. Outside, the whole world lay cold and silent. Suddenly, a great gust ripped the synagogue door from its hinges. The whole building shook. A fearsome voice spoke. Hershel of Ostropol. Did I hear something? It is I, the king of the goblins. Hershel laughed. Don't be silly. You're one of the boys from the village. You're trying to scare me. I am not a boy. I am the king of the goblins. I'll believe it when I see it. Show yourself to me. Behold, I stand before you. Do you believe in me now? Hershel tried not to look. Even in the darkness, he could see the outline of the monstrous shape of the king of the goblins filling the doorway, a figure too horrible to describe, but he pretended not to care. But he does look concerned, doesn't he? Leave that out there for you. It's too dark. I can't see anything. A candlestick and some matches are by the doorway. Why don't you light a few candles? Then I'll see what you really are. Indeed, you shall. A match flared. The chamois candle caught the flame. Hershel's blood turned to water at the awful sight before him, but he did not lose courage. Master of the world, he silently prayed, thou who created the heavens and the earth and the spirits in the air, stand by me now. Then he addressed the goblin. It's still too dark. What are you afraid of? There are plenty of candles. Why not light them all? A hideous hand took the chamois candle and lit the others one by one. Hershel felt himself growing faint, but he forced himself to look. His eyes grew wider and wider as each candle caught the flame. 6, 7, 8. The king of the goblins stood before him. Now, Hershel, do you know who I am? Well, I know you're not Queen Esther. Very funny. Enjoy that joke. It will be your last. Well, that's what you think. Be gone, or I'll take a stick to you. How dare you speak to the king of the goblins that way? I'll speak to you any way I please. You have no power. Your spell's broken. See, the menorah is lit. You thought you were ordinary candles there that you were lighting, but they weren't. They were Hanukkah candles, and you lit them yourself. The king of the goblins roared in fury. The earth trembled and a mighty wind rose. It ripped off the synagogue roof, blew down the walls, splintered the great timbers, and scattered them like matchsticks. Around the menorah, the whirlwind howled, but the candles never flickered. They burned with clear, steady flames. The king of the goblins had no power over them. The spirit of Hanukkah had triumphed. The great wind vanished as suddenly as it had risen. Hershel rubbed his eyes. The night was still as before, even though the synagogue was gone. Walls, floor, roof, even the foundation stones had vanished. But the menorah remained standing tall upon the little table where Hershel had placed it. Hershel waited until the last candle burned out. Then he started down the road that led to the village. I'd better hurry, he thought. I don't want to miss the last night of Hanukkah. But there was no reason to worry. In every window, there stood a menorah with 9 gleaming candles to light the way. The whole village was waiting for him. This is a beautiful, beautiful book, beautiful story. All the elements I love in stories so much. Thank you so much for staying with me. Again, this was kind of a long story. I run into the chat room here. Good morning, Angelina. Good morning, Harlan. Nice to see you all. Everybody else that's there as well, watching on different platforms. Next week is Twas the Night Before Christmas, or as it was originally named, A Visit from St. Nick. I'll be in front of our Christmas tree. I'll be dressed up in some Victorian type garb with maybe a little steampunk element added. Angela and I agree. Absolutely great story. No, Harlan, Tanya and I are not Jewish. I was raised Roman Catholic. I'm Sicilian, but it's a wonderful story. And I have spent 30 years now as a storyteller and an educator working in youth theater and creative drama and telling stories for different clients from all different worlds. If you go back and look at the various Saturday morning story times live, we've had stories from everywhere from ancient Babylonia to Japanese and Chinese versions of tales such as Cinderella and the Big Bad Wolf there, Little Red Riding Hood. And we've done stories from all around the world, from Egypt. And we've done stories from Mesoamerica, from Aztec culture. I love it, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. So anyway, wonderful book. Get this if you don't have it, read it, make it part of your Hanukkah tradition, even if you're not Jewish. Start a tradition in your house. I think that will be wonderful. And I will see you next week for a visit from St. Nicholas in front of the Christmas tree.